Even from the very first scene of this film, when we see her with the kids, it's not even immediately clear that those are her kids because she's so severe with them. She calls them girl and boy. They don't have real names. They don't even call her mom. They call her Mallory. So there's definitely like this wall that kind of separates them. Hey guys, it's Kristen, and today we are talking about Netflix's new film, Bird Box. Adapted from the book by Josh Malerman, Bird Box is a post-apocalyptic horror film that takes place in two different timelines, the present and 5 years prior to that. In this world, there are these invisible supernatural entities that if you look at them outside with your eyes, it will cause death and destruction. For certain people, it causes them to come face to face with their fears and they all end up committing suicide. For other people, it kind of gets in them and makes them attack other people. This story follows Mallory, played by Sandra Bullock, and when we are following the past timeline, she is pregnant and she's trying to survive with this group of strangers, and in the present time frame, we see her trying to get to a safe haven with two kids. People have already begun comparing this movie to John Krasinski's A Quiet Place. They both deal with like a sensory-related monster. In A Quiet Place, it was sound, and in this movie, it is sight. And it's also one of those films that kind of rounds out the year of mom-related horror movies. There were a bunch of horror movies this year that dealt with like motherhood and parenting, like A Quiet Place and Hereditary, and now Bird Box. And in fact, the director, Suzanne Bier, has called this movie a thriller about motherhood. So I want to start off with the cast in this film. In addition to Sandra Bullock, we also have John Malkovich, Machine Gun Kelly, B.D. Wong, Sarah Paulson, Danielle McDonald, Lil Rel Howrey, and I have to say I was pleasantly surprised to see so many familiar faces in this movie. It's interesting because I do feel like they had a pretty strong cast, like they had a lot of really great people, but I think that the script left a little bit to be desired. I felt like there was an interesting story there, but it was just too predictable. For instance, when we start this film, we're focused on Mallory and these two kids, and then we go back to the past and we see, you know, how they got to that moment, and it's pretty obvious at that point that all the other characters must be dead. Like, none of them could have survived, otherwise they would have been with them. So I think like going into it already, you weren't really that invested in the other characters because you knew that they weren't gonna make it. Or there were people like Lucy and Felix who just went off and left everybody, and then you never heard about what happened to them again. So it was just like some of the characters were not really instrumental to the story, and then they didn't even like follow up on what happened with them. Maybe even a little bit more than halfway through the film, we get introduced to this character named Gary, who very clearly from the minute he comes through the door, you know he's the bad guy. I feel like they already dealt with a situation similar to this guy at the supermarket, so there was really no suspense there. You kind of knew what was coming and what was going on the whole time, so really it just came down to, will Mallory and these kids survive this river journey that they're on? I did think though that visually this film was stunning. There was some really great cinematography. It had so many beautiful woodsy river shots, and I think they did a really great job of setting up the location and the isolation that's such a big part of this film. And speaking of that, I think the themes of isolation and loneliness and having a hard time connecting with people was really one of the strongest aspects of the film. We can see from the very beginning of this story that Mallory is not excited about becoming a mom. She doesn't think that she's going to connect with her baby, and she just has an air of loneliness about her. You can see that in the art that she makes and in her relationships with everyone in her family other than her sister. And when this like apocalyptic supernatural stuff starts happening, we can see that there are times when she really tries to connect with people, but it is something that she struggles with. Even from the very first scene of this film, when we see her with the kids, it's not even immediately clear that those are her kids because she's so severe with them. She calls them girl and boy. They don't have real names. They don't even call her mom. They call her Mallory. So there's definitely like this wall that kind of separates them. I think a lot of that was Mallory trying to find a way to distance herself from these kids because one, she has a lot of baggage, and two, sort of using it as like a survival technique. I think deep down psychologically Mallory was trying to be like, okay, if I keep these kids at an arm's length, if something happens to me, if something happens to them, it'll be okay. But that's not the way to live. Instead of acting like a mom, she was acting like a survivor, which, you know, obviously, girl, survive, like do what you gotta do. But at the same time, I think that she didn't have hope, and that was part of the big reason why she had this kind of wall up between her and everyone else. I think we really see the big change in Mallory when she is on this journey to save her kids on the river. She's always loved them unconditionally, but I think that when she was faced with that choice of having to choose someone to be the eyes of the boat during the rapids, that's when she kind of comes to that realization that like she does have the capacity to be a mom. She doesn't want to lose these kids. She does have a connection with them, even if she didn't want to have one, because she wanted to be strong and she wanted to survive. And you know, these kids are everything to her. And I think we really see that all kind of come together right before they hit that sanctuary. I've also been doing some thinking about these supernatural entities because on one hand I do feel like we didn't really learn much about them. Yes, they like cause people to commit suicide, but like what is their motive? What is their purpose? Why are they here? And we don't really learn anything about that. On the other side of things though, I do think that there was a message that they were trying to convey through these invisible demons about confronting your inner demons to survive. I think Mallory's biggest problems were that she didn't have any hope. It was all about survival, and she didn't want to form real connections with people because she was afraid to lose them. But I think once she's able to open herself up to other people, especially her children, this film finds a happy ending. I think Tom was an important force in this story when it comes to that. You know, outside of her sister, Tom was the only other person that she really connected with, and he really wanted to instill hope and give the kids something to look for, to dream for, because if you don't have any hope, then what's the point? You know, what are you surviving for? And I think that on this journey, Mallory really discovered that. While I did enjoy this film, I do wish that there had been a little bit more twists and turns. I do think that it was very predictable, there weren't many surprises, and I think it also wasn't as dark as I believe the book is. Like for instance, I know that there's definitely a scene in the book where they get to that safe haven, that sanctuary, and it turns out everybody there has blinded themselves so that they don't have to worry about these supernatural beings, and that's pretty dark, you know? They don't do that in this story. It ends definitely on a lighter, happier, more positive, hopeful note, but I do think that there could have been more in there to surprise us or kind of throw us off a little bit. I think everything was very, you know, by the numbers. But when it comes down to it, I do appreciate that this film was about more than just monsters and survival. It was about connecting with people, facing fears, and the extremes that a mother will go to protect their kids. And not only that, but I feel like it was about a woman who had lost all hope, but found that again through her children. Did you guys watch Bird Box yet? I would love to know your thoughts. Make sure to leave a comment down below and let me know. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What did you think about the story? Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it and click that subscribe button because I come out with new videos every week. See ya!